Hey everybody, it's Krista with Krista's Creative Chaos. Today we are going to be jumping into a new project. Some of this you'll be doing on your own, so I'm going to introduce the project today, talk about why I want to do this project, and then show you some different ways to do it and help you create the first piece in this project. So something you're going to need, you are going to need a deck of cards. Used cards is totally fine. So if you've got like an old deck laying around, or if you find one at a thrift store, I get mine at Dollar Tree. A lot of times we have casinos around where I live, a lot of tribes. So a lot of times they'll have decks that were used at the casino. So they might have a hole punched in them. That's totally fine. Or they might have a notch cut out of them, and that's totally fine. Or Dollar Tree also carries regular decks as well, usually over in like the kids game section, or just ask at the register. Sometimes they're hanging by the register. So you're gonna need a deck of cards. If you don't have a deck of cards, you could use 2.5 by 3.5 inch. That's the size of a card. 2.5 by 3.5 inch ATC blanks. You could use like these. Like you can get these at Hobby Lobby, $1.29 for 25 of them. And you're gonna want to have 50-ish. You can also, they won't be as thick, they'll be a little bit thinner, but you could, at Hobby Lobby, they have these place cards, so they fold in half, right? 24 place cards in here, which means you're going to cut them in half, so you'll have 48 for $2.49. A little bit thinner, so personally I like a card stock. So one of these ATC blanks is about as thick as the whole place card here. You can also cut your own cards. You can cut them out of recycled cardboard. You could take the mailers that come. I'm all about access, and I like to show people how to do things with the cheapest products possible, or free products, and then knowing, of course, you can upgrade your supplies at any time, right? So I like to show the low cost options. Mailers that come in the mail, those flyer things, you usually just pull them on and throw them. Save them. They're the perfect width to make ATCs, or in this instance, we're making a what did I call it? A creativity deck to calm the chaos. Okay. I'll show you some examples in a second, but these cut up and make perfect cards for that, because it doesn't matter if there's stuff on them, because most of it will be covered up, if not all of it. When you eat mac and cheese, or you eat rice-a-roni, or a box of cereal, save the box, split it open at the seam, open it up. You have all that wonderful cardboard to use, so you can cut that up too. Let's see here. What other kinds of things do I have in here that I've used? That's mostly what I used. You can also just take cardstock extras that you have, and you could use those as well. Okay, so that's going to be your base. So you either need a deck of cards, or you can have the individual ones. Nice thing about the deck of cards is save the box, because one of the videos I'm going to make about this project is going to be showing you how to make this box really fun. Okay, so why are we making these? We are making these because I collect all sorts of little sets like this. This one has things in it like mystic flow. I flow with the mystic energy of the universe, embracing each moment as it comes. And it has this great illustration on it, right? I bought this because the art on these is just really cool. Then so sometimes what I'll do is I'll spread these out face down in the morning and just kind of hover my hand over it. And then whichever one I feel energy from, I pull that one, and that's my card for today. Funny thing, I pulled this one this morning. It says sacred space. I create and honor sacred spaces within and around me. Which, if you guys know, I just created a new Facebook community last night called Krista's Creative Chaos. So if you want to find me there, go and join the group if you'd like. We're going to be doing projects like this, because these videos will be shared in there as well. That's why I'm making this video on the channel. I know I normally don't do like long Maverick needs some love, apparently. I normally don't do long projects, but this is going to be a video where I'll make some today, and then like in a week or two I'll have another video and I'll make more, and we're gonna make this whole deck together. Okay, so I also bought this deck recently by Katie Daisy. This says how to be a wildflower deck. She has a whole how to be a wildflower series. So there's 78 beautiful pieces of artwork in here that are two-sided. So that's like 156 pieces of artwork of hers for like, I don't know, under $20. And it comes in this cool box. Like I said, I'm going to show you how we're going to make our box really cool too. But so like I pulled a card out of here this morning and then I'll just put them in my art space to motivate me or to give me ideas. This one is these beautiful daffodils, which were perfect for spring. And it says, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever," John Keats. So there was a quote on the back side. We will be doing things on both sides of the cards. So you could use, like, there's a tarot card deck here. I don't do tarot cards like how they're meant to be used. But I do have this deck called the Light Seers Tarot because, again, I loved the images on them. So pulled this one today. This one is the Four of Swords, which is about giving yourself permission to slow down and heal, which if you're in the Facebook group at Christa's Creative Chaos, I talk about that group. I created it so it could be a place that we can all heal through art. Because if you've ever followed my journey, you know that I started this back into this in the online community with art after my brother passed away last June. So yeah, so let's jump into this project. I'm going to show you what you need. So you need a deck of cards. We're going to call it the deck of cards. If you're using other things, that's fine. And I am going to show you a really cool way if you're using the miscellaneous pieces of cardboard and mailers and things like that for your bases. I am going to show you a really cool way, because I know you won't have a box, of how to keep those cards too. And I'm really excited to make it. I'll probably make it this afternoon actually, because you'll need something to secure that together, right? So I will get working on that. I'll make a separate video showing that because that obviously won't pertain to everybody. So you'll need a deck of cards. You will need, because cards are glossy and slippery, we want the medium to stick to it. So you're probably going to want to either take a sanding block or a nail file piece of sandpaper and sand them lightly until the sheen is gone. Now the one thing that does do is it scratches up this side. So if you want this side to still be pretty, where you can see it pretty well, like, because you can put paint over the top of it and still see it. What you'll want to do is you'll want to get gesso. This is gesso. They come in store brand. This is you can get them in tiny little bottles. You can get them in this, and then you get them in bigger ones too. This is what artists use to prime their canvas. Because once you put this on, and you can just use it doesn't matter what kind of brush you use. You can use this. You can use this. Just some cheap little brush, because make sure you rinse it out when you're done, because if you don't, it will harden on there. But even if it hardens, save the brush. You can use it again the next time, because just make it your gesso brush, because you're just trying to get it on there. You could even pour it on and then use a latex or a glove and then just smear it on too. So you just want it to be a base so that they then look like this. Okay. So you want to do that in batches. If you don't want to do your whole deck at once, I would do it in batches of 10. So you've got 10 ready to go to do your art on. So that way when you sit down, you actually have some that are ready to go. I'm going to be creating prompts for this project. Sorry, I got to soak up some paint over here from a project I did this morning. I'm noticing it's pooling up. Welcome to my world. ADHD, right? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Where is the paintbrush I was using for that this morning? Hang on. Okay. Now that I'm not distracted. So, cards, gesso. You're going to need some sort of a paintbrush. If you have a few, that's great. They don't have to be expensive. So this is how you're going to know what kind of brush you need. Depends on what kind of paints or what kind of medium you want to use on this. I'm going to show you how to use, we're going to make one together using these King Art gel crayons. They actually call them Artist Mixed Media Gel Sticks. These are actually water soluble as well, just in case you ever bought them. I got mine at Marshall's. TJ Maxx sometimes has them. Amazon has them. But so it's a low cost gel stick, because you can also get the gelatos, which are only about this big, and they're super expensive. And I have both, and I don't see a difference. So then we're gonna make one together with just Artist Loft brand paint. If you have craft paints in the like in the little bottles, I have a ton of those too. You can use those. If you have a little bit better with like a fluid acrylic, these are a Liquitex, you could use that. If you have fancy golden paints or some other brand, you can use those. Use what you have on hand. I have a card over here that's drying right now because I want to see if it'll actually dry. I think it will. That I used Crayola. Can you see it? That I used, there it is, Crayola watercolors, because I want to see, again, I want to make everything I do accessible to everybody. So if you have Sharpie markers, you could use Sharpie markers. If you have Crayola markers, you could use those, but you're definitely going to have to gesso first, okay? And the reason you want to do that is paint will stick to cards that aren't gessoed, but if they bend or anything, the paint will start cracking off of it without the gesso. So just know that. Think of the gesso as like creating a little mini canvas, okay? And I did these, I gessoed different sides of them. And I will be going through and gessoing both sides. I just didn't think about it when I did it. But because we're going to do art on one side, and then the other side will say something. And you can also do art around the words. So you can choose to put quotes on your cards, or I'm going to create a list for us of 52 card titles. Okay. And then I will give you a prompt for that card of what art to put on it. Now you can of course do whatever you want. If you're super creative and you want to just run with it, more power to you. But this is for people who work better having a prompt or something like that. Okay. So we're going to get busy on these. The other thing you're going to need if you're going to use paint is you're going to need some sort of a paint palette. This is a cheap one from the dollar store. When you are done, don't clean it, because I have a different project using the paint that's left on this, and I'll show you that. So just a quick little fun tip. So just let the paint dry on here, and then the next time you use it, you put the next paint right on top of that, and you know what I mean? Just you're going to create this beautiful paint-filled palette of the paint you didn't use. I like to use, I got these at the dollar store, you guys. Dollar Tree. They come in these little hanging bags in the makeup section. So for $1.25, this is a great way to put paint on these cards for this first project, because it is nothing specific. There is no artistic skill needed for this project, okay? Because you can make everything just abstract on it. It does not have to be like, oh, here's a bunny, here's you know what I mean? They can just be colorful and pretty. So they had flat ones of these. Well, the flat, they're round, and then they had the pointy ones. So these are a great way to spread paint if you don't have a paintbrush. Okay. The other thing that I love to use, some people will choose to put on those they call them latex, but I know they're not latex gloves, but those really thin, like surgical gloves, you know. And you can finger paint on these cards, you guys. Super easy. Just so many options. I just want you to know, don't stress about the supplies. It's more about getting the creativity out, okay? So we are going to start. I'm going to turn the camera down and show you. So this deck again is going to be called, and we will be making a title card for this, calling the Creativity Deck to Calm the Chaos, okay? And then I will post pictures of each of my finished cards in the Facebook group. There will be a thread to share your cards. And so underneath that is where you will post pictures of any cards that you created that you'd like to share with us. So let me get this focused down here. Okay, so this is the paint palette. Let's put some paint on here. You're not going to need a lot. This very first card, we are just trying to get the creativity flowing. And so what I want to do with this very first card is I want you guys to just cover the card in color. I don't want any of the card showing. I want it all to be color. Again, you're welcome to do whatever you want, but this is what my suggestion would be, because that way it just gets you going. It makes it so you don't overthink things. And so, oh, this has a flat side to it, that one. Oh, that's kind of fun. Okay, so I'm just going to start putting paint on here. And I do not have to clean this off in between. And you can see, can you see? you can kind of see through when I put it on lighter, and that's fine because you can come back through and you can put on another layer if you want. But what I do is instead of having to clean this, the reason I like these for applying paint for something like this that's not detailed, I can just roll it to a different section of it, and now I can do this. So if you're using markers, you're just going to go ahead and start, you know, scribbling, coloring, maybe putting hearts, maybe you're doing Zentangles, maybe you're doodling. It, you know, just get the card covered in paint. There is no rhyme or reason. Now, the first, because this is only a first layer, you guys. Once it dries, you can come back and then you can go and you can see like what else you might want to do with it. It's just a no stress. Get your creative brain going. So this card is covered, right? I might want to put a little bit of orange up here too. And then I'm just kind of turning this sponge to get the paint color that I want. I'm just choosing to put a little orange in different places. Okay. So that card then goes and sits in my little to dry area, which I haven't created yet. So I'm going to show you something to do with that, but I'm going to grab I like to just grab junk mail, empty envelopes and things, and just set things on them to dry. Okay. So that's just going to be my little drying space. And then that way because I can move it wherever I want. Now, I'm going to show you this. If you've ever watched my YouTube channel before, you guys know I have a sketchbook. I want to talk to you for a second. Hang on. And I also, it does not have to be a sketchbook. You don't have to spend money on it. Find an old book. The dollar store has books that are hardcover. Grab one. Or grab an old sketchbook or an old school notebook or an old planner. Planners are great because they're spiral bound as well. And then this is the book that I call my paint off book. Let me see here. I want to put, let me see, I'll put this down because I want to cover that. Okay, so this is my paint off book. And what is the paint off book? Well, eventually it's going to turn into probably a junk journal or for me. But for right now, it's where I just layers and layers of paint, extra paint that I've had from projects. So I don't want to waste that paint because see how much paint I obviously poured out way too much. So make sure you don't pour out too much. If I wasn't doing this video, I'd probably just be doing a bunch of cards with this color, but I'm not. So I just go into my paint off book and I use my paintbrush or my brayer, or in this case, my makeup sponge. And I just start covering. Look at how cool that is. You see what it's doing? Because I had them on different spaces. And you guys, the paint will dry on here once I get most of it off. And then I can use it again and again and again. It's just kind of really cool, really inexpensive art tool. But yet, if you were to go to an art section and get an art sponge, they would want to charge you probably $5 for it, right? So I'm all about saving money on the art supplies because that way we can have more art supplies, or you can just, actually be able to do art because you can afford it. Okay. Art shouldn't be cost prohibitive. So then I just added that layer. Now, is that a finished page? No. I will just keep going and keep going and keep going. Let me show you. I had a page recently that I finally said, oh, can you tell I'm an 80s girl by this one? I really was like, oh, I really like this page here. Like, I really like how this looks. This one to me is ready to have journaling added or pictures or things like that at this point. But some of these pages, I mean, they've started out just, real basic. This one's still getting added to. This one's almost done over here because I'm really starting to like how that looks. And if you do ugly things, eventually you're going to cover it up with more paint anyway. So, and I also use this book to experiment, to doodle. So just get a book that you keep on hand for your paint offs. This is going to be called the paint off book. And if you don't want to do a junk journal, it's okay. You can also use your paint off book later for artist trading card bases or for more bases for this deck of cards. You can end up cutting those out and adhering them, gluing them to one of your cards to make a new card, or just using pieces of them for collage and things. Just keep following my channel. You're going to see all sorts of ideas. And so it's unlimited what we can do, especially if you don't waste the supplies and you save them. So this here was this has nothing to do with our project, but since it's sitting here, envelopes, you guys, if you open up security envelopes that have the windows in them, they have a pattern in them. Really cool to also take your extra paint. And I could have just made the circles in here, and that way it would make really cool collage pieces because it looks like it's 2 layers of a pattern, right? So that's just another way to do things. Okay, so now I'm going to show you these gel. I will get back. I'm going to use this paint later. I'm going to show you these gel sticks. So another way that you can cover the card, I had this idea in my head. It might turn out ugly. It might turn out cute. We're about to find out together. That's what you're going to find with my channel is everything I do is really real, if that makes sense. Like I don't do a bunch of it beforehand usually. So like already I can see I'm not going to be able to cover this. I need more gesso with the gel sticks. So, and gel sticks are waxy. So they're always going to be your last layer. You need paint on first. So for me, I'm probably going to go back and do a couple layers of gesso on the card that I want to use these on. So since I have it sitting here, let's go ahead and let you see how it comes out. Gesso is a little bit runny. And I'll use this one that's kind of stiff from me not cleaning it properly. And I'll just show you, because I have a base layer on there, I can get on another layer, much thicker, so my gel sticks will show. And I like the lines running through it. If you don't, you can use a paintbrush or a brayer. A brayer is a rolling tool. So I'm just going to leave that like that because that's going to be good for what I want. And then I'm going to take this one because I don't want to waste this gesso. So the gesso can be used kind of like a white paint as well. It would be an expensive white paint. I mean, gesso is not super cheap, but it's not, you know, I'm just saying white paint's cheaper. Okay. So then that's got another layer on it. I'm going to set that up here. And let's see if is there any more in here. Yep, there's a little bit more in there. Okay. And I'm not going to pour more out just for the sake of the video. So let me show you really quick the result of this watercolor, because I was wondering today if I could put watercolor on top of the gesso. I had never tried it before, and lo and behold, somebody in the Facebook group commented, hey, did you know you can do watercolor on top of that? I did not, but this is one I tried before I started the video, and I did it because but I'll do one now as well so you can see how it goes, because I wanted to see. And look at the watercolor. This is Crayola watercolors, you guys. Some dollar stores even have Crayola watercolors. It does not have to be this one that was 24 colors that I'm about to show you. It can just be your little 1, 2, 3, 4, like 8 color or something it is. You can get it usually for $5 or less. So look at how cool that looks. I'm going to show you how I did it, because for those of you who maybe have never used watercolors. So this is, and it says washable watercolor. So of course, if you're going to apply water to that card later, it would smear unless you coat it at the end. But we will talk all about covering your cards and varnishing them or whatever at the end of creating the deck for people who really want to preserve their cards. I don't plan on getting mine wet. Then again, I don't plan on doing a lot of that, and I still do on accident. But it happens, right? So let me show you how you use watercolors. So if you've never used them before, and so if your kids have watercolors, steal them, grandkids, you know, because there's no sense in investing in expensive art tools that you may never use. That's the way I look at it, because I've done that before. And then some of those things just sit there because I just didn't like that particular medium. A medium is paint or watercolor or this gel sticks or whatever. Spritz some water on the watercolors. Now, I've already done this because I was using them earlier. Sometimes when they're brand new, you might have to do it twice, because if you don't want to just take water on a brush and then dip it in there and then try to paint because your watercolors won't flow, okay? Now on this one, I'm going to add more. I have to just be very careful not to dip into my tea. So this card, I'm going to put a second layer on it because you can see with the watercolor, obviously you can see the design underneath it, which I'm going to show you on this Jack card. It's going to be really cool as well. But I'll let that finish drying and then I'll put a second coat on that. But I'll show you how we did it on here. I just did willy-nilly because this first card is going to represent the chaos part of the card deck, okay? And so it does not need to be pretty. Just kind of tootle the color in there. And then I am going to I'm going to put the blue wherever I want it. With watercolor, now on the other paint, you saw me kind of dabbing other paint on top. You can't do that with watercolor until it dries, okay? Otherwise, you're going to create mud. And then usually have a junky rag. You know, a lot of times a really good rag to use is all those extra socks you have that you've lost the mates to. That can be a really good rag to use for art because a lot of people are like, I don't know, I don't want to waste a perfectly good towel. Well, I'm sure you've got extra socks sitting on your laundry room windowsill or in a basket or in a bag or something, right? That have lost their mate. That's a great way to use them. Let me get this water closer, or I really am going to end up dipping into that. Okay, so. Now with watercolor, if I butt this up next to the green, see how the green starts to roll into it? Can you see that? That's what you want. You want that look like that for watercolor because it just makes some really, really cool results. So I'm putting this next to the blue. The blue's going to pull in there and it's going to make green. If you don't like that look for some reason, you could wait till it's dry. So now this blue pulled right down into the orange. Did you see that? Now, if I keep smushing and keep pushing it right now, it's going to turn into mud. So you want to avoid that temptation and just let it dry. And I'm using the brush that came with this set just to show you it's possible. You can do this project with very low cost supplies. See how now it's turning teal. I have to be very careful. I don't want to get mud. But I do it so it's on the very edge because you're going to get some just really cool effects here. Okay. And the other thing you need for the watercolor is a paper towel. Because as you do these cards, the color pooled on the edges. And then I just took this and I just went on the very edge and just soaked up the extra paint as it was drying. Oh, one other thing. If you buy these makeup sponge things from the blenders from the dollar store, save the packaging. Save this packaging. Anything you get in little plastic things like this, where it's a nice sturdy plastic, it's not too flimsy, hang on to those because we have a future project coming that you're going to need them for. And it just sucks because you're going to be excited about the project. And if you don't have the plastic, then you have to wait until you buy something where it has the plastic that you can use. So I'm telling you now, so just stash those in a drawer somewhere or you know, underneath a blotter on your table, something like that. So I use a desk blotter. If you go to like an office store or a Walmart or somewhere like that in their office section this time of year, they're probably starting to go on sale because we're already, you know, 3 months in. So it's a good time to buy something like this, and you can just tear off the pages. You can also just stick newspaper down. One of my favorite things to stick down is a grocery bag. And then instead of throwing it away like a paper grocery bag, start to get paper ones from the store. Instead of throwing it away, save them. Because again, I'm going to have other videos showing you how you can use those. Again, it's kind of like the paint off book, but it's going to be with the bags, right? Now, do you see how I just added water? I added water, and do you see what it's doing? It's just starting to really start to mix in some of these spaces where the colors weren't mixing. It's crazy how it pulls. It's such a, I mean, talk about if you're at a bad day, get out some just cheapo watercolors on something like this, especially a slick surface like this with just the gesso. It's still somewhat slick. The way the watercolors flow, it's kind of like watching a lava lamp. I love it. So do you notice I'm just kind of tapping the color in? I'm tapping. Because I don't want to create mud. Oh, wow, we started a river. So I was trying to use that little pinky coral, but this has other ideas. That's the other thing. Watercolor is harder to control. So you kind of have to be a go with the flow for watercolor, for this type of watercolor anyway. Let's see here. Now I should leave this alone and just let it dry and then put on another layer. But, you know, sometimes we don't do what we know we should do. Let's see here. And I want to show you, I don't know if you just noticed what I did on that palette. Did you notice what I just did to this red? I ended up with a blue or purple on top of it. It's okay, don't freak out. We let it dry and we can fix it later, and I'll talk about that, or I can make a video showing how you can fix it later. And with watercolor, typically you have a clean and a dirty water. I was not that prepared when I just went live, so therefore I don't have it. But just letting you know, I do know I should have it. Now this card is curved, it's curving. So you can see the paint is doing this. So I'm gonna stop. I'll cover this up after this dries because it's just gonna keep doing the thing. But now this one's dry, so I'm gonna put a new layer on this. So let me hit pause while I go clean my water real quick. Okay, I was gonna show you this as well. You may have noticed it, you may have wondered how it works. This thing here, this is a water dispenser, kind of like an automatic cat or dog waterer, but it's for art. So this has got the receptacle here for the dirty water. You put water in here. I like to do it this way so I don't make a big huge mess. Then I flip it over and it fills up down here. And then you can rinse off your brush and you just push this little button and it drains into the bottom, which can be nice for when you're traveling or when you're maybe not in a place where you can have two open things of water sitting there. So let me show you. So let's see here. So this card is starting to get the pooling on the edges. Do you see that? So what we do in that case is we're just here with our paper towel and we just go to the edge and we just don't apply pressure. I don't have the towel like down on the card because if I put it down on the card, it's going to do this because I did it accidentally on this one. I pushed too hard and it makes a white line on it. So instead, I just want to hover above it and let it absorb the extra paint. Okay. And then I'm going to do it down here too because there's also a huge pool of paint. And the cool thing about it is, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but it's also pulling those colors to blend, which is kind of cool. Now what's interesting is this coral color. Notice how it's almost all not even there anymore. So I'm just going to set that over here to dry. If you could, I'm trying to think, you could tape, like use like a painter's tape on this, and put it on the back side if you wanted to, like if your cards are curling, because sometimes they'll curl after you do the gesso. I don't bother about worrying about it because I figure I'll just catch it on the second layer. But you can, put the painter's tape in the corners and then that'll hold it down flat if you want. It's up to you. Now, if you do want some white areas, you can take this towel and you can dab in there and it will actually pull up all the paint and then you'll have some white areas. But I'm going to leave that. We're going to come back to this card here where it's got a couple layers. Now, you can you'll get used to your paints, whether or not you need to re-wet them or not. But this card is looking pretty cool. So, I'm not going to re-wet them because too wet and then it just takes forever. So I'm going to drop color on here where it didn't stick before. Now, the water is important. I want to put a drop of water in that to make it spread, okay? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, and the magic happens when I add a second color. There we go. There we go. Because then they start to join and mingle and do all the fun things. And notice I'm not stressing about the design at all, because if I stress about the design at this point, it's not going to be any fun for me. I'm not going to sit there and go, where do I want to drop the color? Why? Because I have no control over where it's going to go on these cards. On watercolor paper, I would have much better control, but on this, I sure don't. So this first card is supposed to be about the chaos anyway. I just took the... tried to take the stress out of it for you if you're somebody who likes control, because this card is supposed to represent chaos, okay? And so I'm excited to see your cards and what they end up looking like. So the only way I can do that is in the Facebook group. Obviously, YouTube doesn't have a way for you to share cards with me. So join the Facebook group, Christa's Creative Chaos, if you would like to be able to share projects with me there. If you wanted to get involved in any of the artist trading card swaps that you've heard me talk about before, because they will be posted there. Okay, appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day creating. Can't wait to see your chaos cards.